yeah, I saw that. Alan did right, didn't he?
Yeah, he says he just wake up, but he'll be here soon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 10 o'clock. Just woke up. We'll be there soon, which means probably 10:30.
Yeah. Come on.
I like this. It's much more leg room.
Yeah.
And
no.
since I'm the one with the most leg gear, that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah, you got that.
I got legs now. Ain't no question about that. I got legs.
Yeah, you can. I can stretch on this too.
Be.
Okay, I got it up on box cast, and
There you go.
trying to bring it up
I
here.
tried to open it, but I couldn't.
It's probably up already. Yep.
Is it up on Facebook?
Says 5 minutes ago, the attraction of your spirit being.
It's already up.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up if my phone will do it,
Okay.
because that's the only thing. But it says it's there, but yeah,
Yep.
we're there. In fact, everything we've been talking about is there.
Great.
So we're already off and going with the conversation.
Okay. For some reason, I'm not getting it up.
Wow.
Maybe if I bring it up, start fresh with it. There it is. That's what it was. I just wasn't. Okay. Sorry, I thought we were not on for some reason, but we are. And it's good to be back this morning, and hope that everyone has had a good week. I could probably just move this over in between us a little bit. There you go. So we've been talking on the Aquarian age for a while, and we moved into the concepts of the changes into the Aquarian age. We went into some of the shadows of it, or the things that the left foot, if you want to call it that. You have a left and a right foot, left and right hand. They're both part of the body, but one is different than the other. So we looked at some of the things that Aquarian age would bring on, and we looked at some of the great things that the Aquarian age would bring on. And then we got into the whole angelic side of things, and how that the angels kind of we viewed them as entities and persons and all those things. But in this age, when it becomes holistic, we realize that they are attributes coming forth from the Great Spirit, from us, from our inner being. And depending on what's happening in our life, that attribute will display itself, which was Michael and Gabriel and Lucifer and Wormwood. And these four attributes, we talked about how they had certain things that they brought out. Michael, of course, is the one that does the recasting. He does the changing. He does the battles. He does all of those things within us. Is that Michael the archangel? And then you have Gabriel, which is the whole prophetic side. Gabriel kind of does the study, the look at patterns, the look at things in the earth, the way things are going, kind of has a foreseeable eye to what's coming. And so Gabriel has the whole prophetic side. Lucifer's the process. All the processes that we go through, and of course there were names for that. But you can just look at a grain of wheat or corn, and you can see the processes when they're planted into the ground. Then it dies, it rots, and it dies, and then you go through a resurrection, and you have two blades that come up, and then you have the stalk, and then you have the tassel, and then you have the husk and the wheat, and all those things are processes that we go through, and the life is traveling through every one of those processes. And many of the prophets called it everything from the serpent, Lucifer, the red dragon, the devil, the Satan, and if you go look those things up, all of those names stemmed out from Moses' writings and things, and you find all of those things. Moses talking about the blood all the time and how the life is in the blood. We know that the blood, Job called it a dragon, so the red dragon. When John was writing, it was the blood, the systems, man-made things that we set up are images to the beast, which is the red dragon. And so then you have, when you move Lucifer, which is those processes, starts out in the light, dies, comes up through all those blades, around through the processes, and comes right back to Lucifer again, the prodigal son coming home to the father. And then you have, of course, the wormwood, which is the justice of things. I guess it was a Hindu religion, or one of them, they called it the karma. Wormwood is the karma of all things. It is a attribute in you that brings justice, judgment, reward, all those different things. It is the angel of death and the angel of light. And depending on the process that you're in, he's going to perform an angel of death or an angel of light in you. So those things are all attributes now in this age. So I wanted to, for just a little while, to take what I have written as a subject, and it is the attraction of your spirit being. And I know that's a little bit of a strange way to, I'm going to turn this on so I know that it's operating. It's a little bit of a strange way to say it, but to me, your spirit being is the eternal. It's what is eternal. A soul is actions, things, attractions. I'll put it like this. When Adam, if you read your prophet's writings, when Adam was created, which is, you know, he was eternal, his spirit being was never created, but when he was created, or when he stepped into the earth and put on a body of earth, the scripture says, the prophets writing, both Moses and Paul, said he became a living soul. So the difference between before putting on an earthly body and after putting on an earthly body is you were a soul back there, but you weren't a living soul. You were a living being and a living spirit that had not taken on the natures and attributes that were in you. They were laying in you, but when you put on an earth body, you became a living soul. And listen to me, you have always been a quickening spirit.
Mm-hmm.
All the way back into the great spirit, all the way back into the great fountain of life, throughout the eons and eternity, you have always been a quickening spirit. But what you did when you came here is became a living soul, or that quickening spirit attracted to itself what it always had in it and wanted. It was able to create it with these bodies, with the earth, with all of the elements. We're now able to create a soul. We're able to create our natures, and we attract what is in us. We had it in us. It was laying there. It was a soul. It was not a living soul. And coming here, it came to life because it brought forth the elements and everything to be able to attract what you wanted and what you're going to be, what you are. It attracts all of that. So it's not something that I say to myself, okay, I want to be this over here, so I'm going to begin to desire that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about attraction. It's a magnet. It's like you take a magnet and set it down. Any of the metals in the area of that pull are going to immediately draw to it. They're going to slide across the table. They're going to click together. They're going to connect. And it's not a matter of the magnet saying, I want this and I don't want this. Whatever's in the area, boom, it comes to it, depending on the force of the magnet. So
that's the quickening, is what you're saying. The quickening attracts or repels.
Yes.
And that's what the quickening is.
That's right.
Your quickening spirit is sitting there, and when you're born, everything that's in you, it starts pulling that, gravitating those things toward you that you like, and those things that you choose not to like, it repels them away from you, and that's what the quickening spirit does, is what you're saying.
Yes. Like a tractor beam. We've all watched space shows. You know, when they lock in that tractor beam and the spaceship's trying to get away and it just can't. It's being pulled in. Mm-hmm. Before I get really started in this, I do want to say Patty won't be with us today. She's usually here every weekend, but her mother is very bad, and it looks like she's going to cross the veil within the next day or two. We were there yesterday. So be in prayer for her. She travels there. It's about an hour away, and she'll be with her mother through the day, and be in prayer for us that the will of the Lord is accomplished in it. She's 90 years old. I believe she's having enough health problems that, you know, for me, when a person gets to that point, I certainly want to go on. I don't want to be here for everybody to be taking care of me and everything else. So be in prayer for her as she travels. So I want to read this about, and I want you to think about the whole process of attraction while we're talking today, and the whole thought of you have always been a spirit being, and as we enter the different houses, the house is the magnet, so to speak. It influences. You have that house with this. This is an Aquarian house, and I'm not talking about because I was born in the month from January 20 to February 20. I'm talking about I came through an Aquarian portal. Mm-hmm. You did too. Brother Daniel's a Capricorn, but he came through an Aquarian portal, and that's the magnet right now. And Brother Joe is an Aries, Joe Gomez, but he came through an Aquarius port, and so the magnet is the attraction of what's going on in Aquarius. So we see this now. I want you to be thinking on that. We're in an Aquarian. We are an Aquarian magnet placed in the earth. And all of the characteristics of Aquarius that need to produce themselves as attributes, we're drawing that attraction to us. The metals around us are clicking and coming to us, and we're forming what we need to form. So we see this. I want to read to you Matthew, the 13th chapter, and just a little bit about a parable. It says in the 24th verse, another parable put he forth unto them. Jesus put a parable forth. He was talking to the people. And he said, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. Now I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to read this the way I see it and understand it. And if you don't like it, well, tough luck. Just take a swallow and keep listening. The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in the field. But while he slept, his enmity came and sowed tares among the wheat. But when the blade was sprung up, there is this word enemy in the 25th verse. Do you know, if you look that up, it says enmity? Mm-hmm. While men slept, or when we entered into this body and came into the earth, we came into, as you know, a position of not being awake. And so while we slept, enmity, something in us, came and rose up and sowed tares among the wheat. But when the blade was sprung up, when we began to produce fruit out of our body and brought forth fruit, then appeared the fruits of the enmity in between two things in us. They appeared. So the servants of the householder, that person is in that body, the servants of the householder came and said, hey, aren't you a good person? Aren't you a nice man? How did this enmity in you come about? Mm-hmm. You seem to be so nice, and then I see you and you get angry and you get upset and you get all these things. But you seem to be a nice person. How did this enmity come about, and where did these tares come from? Where did these things that's not really the character that you want to be, but they're in you, where did they come from? And he said unto them, my enmity has done this. That enmity on the inside, and it's not an enmity against an enemy. It's in us. It's who we are. We have enmity in us. Mm-hmm. And even in one place, Paul said that your carnal spirit is enmity against the Spirit. So right inside of us lays enmity, and it works between what you want to be and what you're not. And it continually works. Like Paul said in Romans the 7th chapter, just go read it. Paul makes a statement. He said, the things that I would do, I do not. Mm-hmm. The things that I would not do, I find myself doing. Mm-hmm. And he says, it's no longer I that doeth it, but it is enmity. Look up that word sin in the 7th chapter. It says enmity. It is enmity in me. It's something in me that's wrestling and producing different things. And my enmity has done this. The servant said unto him, wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? Who's this servant talking to him? It's that guy that you have in your head that talks all the time.
All the time.
And it's talking all the time, and it says, I don't need this in my life, and I don't need this in my life. But you know, if you take this out of your life, you're not going to be a whole person. There are some things in you that, even though temper may be talked about as something that's not real great in the prophet's writings, maybe You built that temper because you needed it to get by in life when certain things are striking you. Or that discernment, or that love, or that hate. You say, oh, you can't have hate, Brother Parnell, and be a child of God. But come on, read the 9th chapter of Romans. It said that the Spirit hated Jacob, or hated Esau, and it loved Jacob. How can that be? Because there are attributes in the Great Spirit that he brings out. Now, he solved within himself that hate towards Esau by the end of their lives. Esau and Jacob were good friends and were just fine. So we have attributes of enmity in us. But the servant said, I need to get these things out of me. I need to tear these things out of me. I don't need these things in me. And when he said that, he said, will you have me do that? But he said, no, don't do that. While you gather up the tares, while you're gathering all these things up, you'll root up the wheat also. You'll cause problems in your life by trying to be something that you're not. You'll cause all sorts of things. And he says, don't do that. Don't gather the tares up. Let them in the field. Do you know that tares, the root of the tares, help the wheat grow? Do you know that on a hillside, if you go into that hillside, which we've been on a mountain most of our life, trying to get up it, and if you go into a hillside and you spray or you tear out all the tares, you know what's going to happen to that hillside? The grass, the things are not going to grow on it, and the first flood that comes, it's going to wash away that hillside, and it's going to keep washing it out until you have a big ditch. Tares are there for a reason, and the enmity in you is there for a reason. It's a very important part of you, and you need to stop looking at it as something you need to tear out of your life. You need to get out of your life. No, it's an attraction. It's an attraction. Aquarius has wheat about it, and Aquarius has tares about it. And you've come in under the influence of Aquarius, and you're drawing in all those metals and forming a magnetic, electronic life in you. He says, no, don't tear them. Let both grow together. Let them grow up together. Now, just think of that. Let both grow together. My mind goes back to Cain and Abel. It goes back to Moses and Balaam. It goes back to Moses and Korah, Moses and Dathan. It goes back to Judas and Jesus. It goes back to Ishmael and Isaac. Constantly. Don't tear them out. Don't try to separate them. Let them grow together. And he says, let them grow together until the harvest, until maturity, until you come to a holistic understanding. Understanding that I need to use the tares as a tool in my life, and I need to use the wheat as a tool in my life. These two things are attributes that needed to grow up together and come to maturity together. So when you think about all those things and the problems and the feelings like, oh man, I wish I didn't have this and I wish I didn't have that. I wish I hadn't acted this way and that way. It's in there. It's tares in there. When you came here, you became a living soul, or you began to live out all of the attributes in you, and iniquity laid in you. Iniquity laid within your theophany, and that iniquity is the tares that are coming forth in your life that you had to have here to make you into the man or the woman, or give you your spirituality, or give you you have science, you have politics, you have all of these things, and you look at politics and you say that's a bunch of tares. But think about how they're molding and making you. You look at religion and you say that's a bunch of tares. Well, you can call it that. That's mostly what it is. but think about how it is molding and making your character and helping you in your maturity as you grow. He says, leave them together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together, first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into the barn. Okay, remember what I just said to you. Wheat and tares are attributes. Mm-hmm. They are not a person. We're not throwing any person into the barn to burn them. We're not gathering together people who are Methodist, Baptist, Pentecost, Message, Third Testament, sinners, Christians, ungodly Muslims. We're not gathering these people together in bundles to burn them. That's not what this is about. It's attributes. Attributes that we gather together, and some attributes are attributes that were laying in the theophany that didn't need to be refined. Mm-hmm. And other attributes laying in the theophany needed to be refined and put through the fire and come out pure as gold. So we have tools within us and attributes within us that we're working on. And there are reapers at the end of the harvest. Go over into Paul's writings, I think it's Corinthians, the 2nd chapter, somewhere in there. And Paul talks about how that a man's works that he's brought forth shall be burned, but he shall be saved, or he'll go on into other things. We are there. When we come into the harvest, there are many of our works that need to be burned. And that doesn't mean when we say burn it all and throw it away and annihilate it and do away with it, that's not the right thought. The right thought is take all of those things and burn it. And bring out, once you get all the dross off, bring out something that's pure as gold. Go through the fire and bring it out. So he goes on talking, and he gives another parable or two. And then him and the disciples get by themselves. Then Jesus sent the multitude away and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, declare unto us the parable of the tares in the field. Tell us what you meant about this one. It puzzled us. And then that was 36 verse, 13th chapter. And Jesus says, he answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. So you sow your seed of the theophany into the earth when you come here and become the Son of Man. Every one of us is the Son of Man. We're the son of the attributes of this earth. We have become sons of men through the creation process. And it's when you're a son of man that you sow these things into the earth. The field is the world. It's where we're at right now. The good seed are the children of the kingdom. Or the good seed is the theophany. It's that you sow into the earth. It comes here as a bare grain. 15th chapter Corinthians. Put the good seed into the field. And when the good seed goes into the field, we find out that he says, but the tares are children of the wicked one. Oh, that's another person, Brother Parnell. No. The wicked one is you. The good seed is the theophany, and the tares are what is coming out of that theophany when it brings itself forth. And what are we when we step into this world? We are the two together, the wheat and the tares growing together, and you have the wicked one, or you are the carnal mind, the one that came here in sleep and began to sow enmity in your own self. The wicked one. The one sitting on the throne that needs to be unseated. The one sitting on the throne that needs to be recast and changed. The wicked one. My enmity sowed this, the devil. He's in here. And the servant said, where did all these things come from? What's going on here? And they're trying to figure it out, and he says, it's my enmity that did this. It's the devil. It's the wicked one. And we need to change his nature. Listen to him. My enmity sowed this. It's the devil. And in the harvest at the end of the world, and the reapers that come in the harvest at the end of the world are angels. We've been talking about that for a good while. About the angels that come in this age of Aquarius at the end of the world, or the end of the Piscean age. Angels come forth. We step into a time of harvest where that we are a holistic being now. And he says, the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of the world. Verse 40, chapter 13. When your world ends, when the Piscean age ends, when your world ends, you being the wicked one and the Son of Man, when that world comes to an end, then there's something that you do as an angel. And let's read what the angel does. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, or we shall become mature among ourselves and understand who we are, and as angels, and they shall gather out of the kingdom. Where's the kingdom? The kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. And angels shall go in with precision and understanding, and wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove, watching through discernment everything about himself. And the angels, and they shall gather out of the Son of Man, out of the kingdom, out of the body, out of their spirit, they shall gather all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and you do that. You know how many times you think about the offenses you've caused, the things you've caused, the people you married and shouldn't have, the places you went, the adultery you committed, the fornication. All of that stuff was in there as tares for a reason, whatever it is. And so the Son of Man sends his angels, gathers all of these things up in the kingdom, and he shall cast them into a furnace of fire. He shall cast them into hell. He shall cast them into a purging place. He shall take them, all of his life, and purge it and send it through the fire. What is the fire? His eyes are fire. What do eyes bring? The revelation. He takes everything that he ever did and applies a collective revelation to it, puts it through the fire of eyes and judgment and understanding, and there shall be weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth, the bitterness of taking this thing and eating it. And there shall be weeping, wailing, of gnashing of teeth, and then shall the righteous shine forth. Through revelation and understanding, we will bring forth and say, all of these tools are good. All of these things are understandable. I wasn't a bad person, and Sister so-and-so wasn't a bad person, and these people weren't liars, and these people weren't haters, and we'll see it all. It'll come forth, and the righteous shall shine forth as the sun in the kingdom. He that hath ears, let him hear. Do you have ears? Do you have understanding to stop putting the enemy outside of you? To stop putting the wicked one outside of you? To stop putting the tares out here somewhere else and they're separate from you? When you're in the kingdom of God, the tares will come in and sit down right beside you and try to convince you that you don't have what you have. That's not another person talking to you. That's you. How many times during the day does something inside of you try to convince you that you don't have what you say you have? That you are not the person you say you are? That you are not angels? That you're not good enough to serve the Lord? You're not good enough to be the Spirit of the Lord in this day? How many times a day does something comes up in your life and you have a feeling against somebody or whatever, and it begins to reach out and say, you're no good. You're not good enough. You're not what you say you are. Tears are there for that reason, and they are there in your life to form you, to bring you into robust, to bring you into the glory that you should be in. The contrast is there, and the contrast is beautiful. It is everything that you need. And at the start of the last session that we had, I read you something about the Spirit doesn't look at the flesh. The Spirit looks at the Spirit. It's a magnet of attraction. The Spirit doesn't draw flesh to itself. It draws other spirits, other things, the things that are laying in it, the attributes, it draws that to itself. So we see this. Brother Joe Gomez put something out that I really love. He said, I see two movements, two frequencies in a field. Two things sowed in a field, wheat and tares. I just read to you this. They are not two separate beings. It is enmity laying within you that forms these two things in you. Many attributes inside iniquity, many attributes inside righteousness, and they both grow together and work together till the harvest, and they're fighting back and forth until the harvest, and they're wrestling with one another until the harvest, and in the harvest, a mature group of people comes, a people of understanding, and they begin to bring a different vibration. They begin to bring a different frequency, and this vibration and frequency begins to move throughout the pond, begins to move throughout the ocean, and it begins to take over everything, and that vibration of frequency is holistic understanding. So that this one is not fighting against this one, but we're pulling together and becoming one holistically. And as we become one holistically, all of the wickedness begins to disappear. All of the iniquity. Why? Because you're putting it all through the fire of the eyes and the revelation and the purging and bringing on a collective memory to know that you needed the one just as much as the other. You needed one to bring out the other. You needed it to form your character. You needed all these things. And so I see two movements, two frequencies in a field. One of suppression, one of glorification. One of separation and one of unification. One of being victim and one of being a victor. One of bondage and one of freedom. One of love and one of hate. One of compassion and one of inhumanity. I see that in every person.
Yeah.
Depending on the geographical area that you grew up, depending on the attitudes that your family gave you, depending on how your mother and father treated you, depending on how you deal with your siblings, depending on how the teachers taught you in school, depending on the geographical area, whether you grew up poor or rich, however you grew up, all of those things. What am I talking about? A living soul. A living soul. From the day you took your first breath, that little child that got smacked in the head every day, that got beat, that got abused, that got put into places, that all these things happened to it. It was forming a character
that it needed, so that when it came up to a holistic being, or when it grew into maturity, it knew how to use those things. And then you had the child who come through a very good life, a family life, and they had family tables and they had family dinners, and they came through a good set of teachers, and they had all those things, and it had a different way. And then these two meet in life, and they just got totally opposite views of the world. And one has racism full of them, and the other does not. And one has anger and jealousy over what this one has and wants it and doesn't know how to live in a content condition. You've got all of this going on in the world, and every one of them are people that came up in the parable that I just read to you, tares and wheat together, and they grow into maturity. And let's take our ideas off of flesh. Let's take our thoughts off of flesh, and let's get our thoughts where it belongs, and that is on the spirit being, which is attracting and bringing all these things to pass in your life based on the nature or the living soul that you are putting forth in your life, that you are reaching out and bringing to you in your life. He goes on to say, Jesus said, "Then shall the two be in the field." The field is you. "The two shall be in the field, the one shall be taken, and the other left." All that means is one didn't need the refining powers of the burning fire. It was accepted. The other needed the fire and the purging and the bringing into mind the collective revelation of why you came through all of those hurtful things. And we have them both on the inside of us. Parts of us we feel good about and have always felt good about. And it doesn't need the refining fire. And parts of us we have enmity that has brought forth something that needs to go through the fire and purge itself and come to a revelation, come to gold through the fire. Brother Joe wrote that, and then Stephen Adabom put this. He quoted what Joe wrote, and then he says, "The great lesson I see here is we have all tasted the two without a choice." That's right. We have all tasted the two without a choice. When we came here, we entered it, and the two began to grow in us, and the two grew together. And it was two movements inside of us, two frequencies in a field. When I'm talking about highs and lows, I'm not talking about people being higher than other people and lower than other people. When I talk about strength and weakness, I'm talking about vibrations. Watch what goes on in your life. Animals, everything about you, they feel the vibration coming off of you. Have you ever seen an animal in life? I go to people's homes or wherever, and maybe the animal will be around us and it'll be playing and things, and the owner maybe sees a broom that it left sitting outside on the porch or something, and the owner goes and picks the broom up. You ever watch the dog take off running, go under something? I've seen it happen. You know why? Because he's revealing the vibes of that owner. He has had that owner pick that broom or a stick or something up and beat him with it. Vibes that come off of you cause reactions all around you. And you can send vibes of love and compassion, strong vibrations of wanting to be one, of unification, and everything around you relaxes. I go out here and I sit down, and the birds will come in. They'll eat. They'll come up on the porch. I went out there and stood in the little gravel area I got, and birds will land right on the little barn or on the everything, and I talk to them because they're feeling a vibe come off of me. I see other people. The bird wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't come near him. It's set in a tree 100 yards away. I see some people walk into an area and everything leaves. The rabbits run under the barns, everything else. Because this person is putting off some vibes that are something they don't want.
Right.
I think Alan might have got here.
Sounds like it.
So we all have tasted the two without a choice. But now, just pull that door shut till he comes in. But now that we've tasted these two things, now we have choices. Does Alan come in yet?
Yeah.
Now we have choices. Now we have an understanding. Now we have all of these things in us that we're able to make a choice between manifesting the two. We didn't have a choice about tasting them. I had the taste of iniquity. I had the taste of a tear. I had to have the enmity grow up in me. I had to have a wicked one. And then I had a righteous one. I had a loving one. I had one full of compassion. I had one who didn't need the refining fires. And as that happens, you know what takes place? You begin to make choices of where you want to go. Now that you've tasted them both and ate of them both, you make choices. He says, we didn't have a choice. Our lives Paul said, we were born heavenly and earthly. It's a fact that people will inspire you, positive, and people will drain you, negative. Hence, it is for our good. Both of them are for our good. The law of contrast demands without any choice to fuse together the positive and the negative. The law of contrast fuses it together. And Jesus tells his disciples, don't be foolish and try to rip them tares out, because you're going to affect all the things around you. All the other character, all the other compassion and love and everything else, leave them alone and let them grow together until the time of the unveiling, or until the time that angels come, and angels will be able to separate them because they're not pulling them apart and ripping them apart. Angels that have a holistic understanding are taking these things and they're bringing them together in a collective revelation. And I'm understanding why I had an Aquarian father and a Libran mother. I'm understanding why they left me in the times they left me, why I had family, I'm understanding why I had certain teachers and why some of them were very rough and some of them were very compassionate. I understand everything that happened to me in my life, why I come up through some of the Pentecostal church, some of the Baptist church, right on into William Branham's message as a young boy, and on out into the Third Testament. I understand I came here as a bare grain, and then I put on a living soul, and then I took that living soul and began to create my character through the two attributes of tare and wheat. They were both inside me. The law of contrast demands without any choice to fuse together the positive and the negative. To get functionality from electromechanical gadgets. That's the law of, look at it. You have to bring those mechanics and that electrons, electromagnetic things together in order to have this. You have to have chargers. You have to have magnetic forces. You have to have electricity. You have to have everything. You got to have something that is negative. You got to have something that is positive. You got to have all the 7 colors to form out a beautiful picture. You got to have all of these things in you, and you have to have iniquity in you tares in you, working in you, enmity, forming two movements in you, and then you come to maturity and you convert and change and recast the wicked one who brought all these things out in you. So whenever you're thinking of all these things, don't think of good and bad. Don't think this person has these things in them, so they're bad. They're no good. They're murderers. They're liars. They're filthy. Don't think that way. Get your mind. The Spirit doesn't compare or look at itself as flesh. The Spirit looks at things as spirit. The Spirit looks at quickening power, which you have always been. You have never been anything but quickening power, a quickening spirit. And then you put on the flesh, came into a world of cosmos that made you a living soul. And then as you become this living soul, you attract the nature that's laying in the spirit being. You attract things to you. And then as you grow in your maturity, you begin to understand that all of this attraction that took place, you need to put it through collective revelation and understand what's going on in you. Light and darkness must be mixed to get colors and beauty. Photography. Think of the dark room. You've got to take that negative through the dark room before you can ever bring it to light and form it into some beautiful colors. And of course, Jesus had to bring in Judas with him to get the redemption work done. He won't let the servants separate the tares and the wheats, because without them together, there will be no harvest. Do you understand that? That's what Jesus said. Don't tear up the tares and rip them out of the field, lest you rip the good with it. You tear up the wheat with it, and there'll be no harvest.
Right.
Wait until you get mature enough to understand that the tares in the field were needed just as much as the wheat. And they're needed for your growing and for your understanding. And then as an angel in the age of Aquarius, you take all that and you put the tares into a furnace, or you take those thoughts and characters that you have formed in your heart and mind that maybe you don't have such a good feeling about because maybe you stepped on a few people on the way. Maybe you ran a few people out of your life on the way. Maybe you caused some deaths on the way. Maybe you murdered. Whatever you did, you need to take that and put it into the fire, into a fire furnace, and burn it, and come to a collective revelation about how that formed you. Moses murdered in the pits of Egypt, and it formed that character into him for 40 years. On and on and on. These things are there to form your character, and they are not bad. And they are not good. They're way beyond that concept. They are absolute things in your life that you need. And of course, he broke the walls of partition that were between and made the two to become one new man. This is when you come to maturity. Let's understand this fact about contrast. It's about complement, not opposition. Contrast complements one another. Contrast is not about separation. It's not about opposition. It's not about enemies. Contrast is a complement for your character. Are we understanding so far?
Yeah.
So when I look at Alan, or I look at Daniel, or I look at Connie, or I look at Joe, or Louie, or Vincent Dorku, or John Arma, or Winston Pasito, men who had a completely different view than me after many years pulling away, I needed them just as much as I need anyone else. People who are coming against me, Third Testament people, all of these different people, they are wonderful people that I need in my life. And when I feel that I don't need them in my life, what causes that feeling other than enmity within me that doesn't understand that I need the tares and I need the wheat and I need the compassion and I need the compliment, and everyone and everything that gets attracted into my life is a compliment to me. We have a long way to go. Joe went on to say, William spoke of having love for the people and not the system they were in. I said it a while back and I mean it. Whenever you hear me speaking out, I'm not speaking against the persons in that system, nor the people who are sympathetic to that system. I'm not speaking against you. You're persons. I'm speaking against a man-made system that forms an image of the wicked one and wants to hurt. I'm speaking against that system. I need every one of you in my life. And when I speak out and you see me put something on Facebook, I know I'm sending that out to hundreds of thousands of people. Many of them are silent. They read it, they go on, and they try to live it because they love our way and our companionship and the message we're bringing forth. Others speak out because they get angry about it and they don't feel like it's a right view, and they don't have the view that I have. That's fine too. And others speak out and say, that's glorious, that's beautiful, that's wonderful. You get all kinds of responses because every one of us hold within us the tares and the wheat. And some of us have taken the time to jump on a wagon and identify with it that might be mostly an attribute coming from the tares. Mm-hmm. But you've already put your life into it. That's the only reason that you don't see a lot of people jumping parties and everything else right now, because they put their whole life into something, and it is kind of embarrassing to let down, let go of the shields, let go of the facade that you've built about yourself, and say, gee, things have changed and I'm changing too. Kind of hard to do that sometimes. So what we need to do is not look so much at the person, but know the character, the living soul that is there, and love it accordingly, and know that they are a complement in your life. William spoke of having love for the people and not the system they were in. The contrast in frequency is in our field. One is taken, one is left. I choose to live in a frequency of love and compassion. He now has that choice. Mm-hmm. You now have that choice. But as Stephen Adbom said, we tasted of the two without a choice. No choice to it. The enmity was in here. But you've grown. You've understood. You've caught the two movements in you. You caught the two attributes in you. It's in your field. Do not try to tear them apart. Use them. Let them grow together. When you get into the harvest, say to yourself, this is a real revelation, and I'm going to take every little minute thing that happened to me, and I'm putting it into my collective revelation, and I'm going to see how that it made me and complemented me to be a better person. So we're talking about coming into an angelic understanding. It's what Jesus said, leave them alone till the end of the world. Leave them alone till they come to maturity, till they come to the harvest. And then I will send forth. I will bring out the angel attribute and revelation in me that takes them both, makes them one new man, and brings forth a collective revelation about myself, about the world, about the universe, about every person in it, about politics, religion, and everything else, and how every single platform is a complement to me. And by doing so, you remove the flesh. You remove the idea of wrestling against flesh and blood. Paul said, we are not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against principalities and power in high places, in the mind, in the heart. The enmity that we put in there while we slept. So it's all you. And everything that is laying inside your field, and you're the magnet, and it's out here, and it's metals, and it's steel, and as you move through life, all of a sudden this says, pow, it attracts to you. And this over here, which you never wanted before, all of a sudden you get to be 25 or 30 years old, pow, it attracts to you. It's over here, everything's just hitting, attracting, coming to connection with you as you move through your living soul. And you're attracting all the metals and all the natures that are like you. You lay that magnet out there and you throw out a piece of plastic out there, it's just going to lay there. You throw a piece of paper out there, it's just going to lay there. You throw out whatever it might be, it's just going to lay in the field. You know what Brother Branham called it? Cannon fodder. It's things that are just not a part of you. They don't feel your vibration. They don't feel your magnetism. They don't have the same elemental structure as you. They're the same person. They're a part of the elements of the world, but they don't have the same elemental structure. So you attract what's out here as your living soul. Your attribute inside you was a soul. And when it put on flesh, it became a living soul and began to attract everything that is of the same elemental spiritual structure that you are. So we all move through the aquarium portal. We're all here, and it's the aquarium magnet laying out here in the world, in the universe, and everything that has in it that same magnetism, bang, it begins to connect. It begins to pull here and there, comes in. And we're watching it happen all across the earth. The Aquarian age is bringing in all the things that magnify it and bring it to magnetism and bring it to life and bring it to expression. Talking about angels, my understanding of an angelic world is it is attributes within us. Those attributes manifest themselves at the proper season or times in life throughout history. In other words, we all have the attributes of an angelic atmosphere in us. It's laying there. Some of us learn and come to an understanding of how to use them and manifest them and even control them in our proper season and time while we're here. I don't think there are angels just out here floating around, got wings and everything else, and they're just floating in the atmosphere, and they're waiting to floating around in the air and waiting to jump in and give us a lesson on how powerful they are compared to us. I don't believe that. as humanity progresses, we will become more spiritual to these truths of atmospheres, portals, things happening around us, attributes coming out of us, enmity forming in us. We'll become more mature to these things all the time as humanity progresses. And we will see these manifestations in us on a more regular occurrence as needed, and we won't be thinking of them of something out here hiding behind a tree somewhere, needing to jump in or come whisper in your ear and say, hey, listen to me, you're going the wrong way. No. I'm not going to need a servant asking all these questions about how come this is this and this is that. I have become one person, one new man. Not a servant talking to me, not a carnal mind, not this. Not, I am one new man, and I am going to manifest these attributes under an angelic age and bring them to harvest and keep all of it as tools in my toolbox. This is our age, Joe Gomez, for recasting humanity. The direction we are moving in leads one to the angelic presence within. Not something out here. The recasting starts from the individual, understanding ourselves for the purpose of unifying all things. The organizational systems are all around us, desperately trying to bring separation. All of these organizational systems were created in Aries and Pisces over the last, say, 4,000 years, from Noah till now. And they're all created all around us. And they try to bring separation. It will not work. All of these things will soon fade out in this Aquarian age. This is a humanitarian age. The time to love in spite of our differences. Looking past our differences, coming to a heavier, more strengthened vibration. I'm talking about vibrations when I say some people are stronger than others. I'm not trying to say this person is better than this one. I'm just telling you this person over here has tapped into a stronger vibration. They're bringing forth a stronger way, a way of strength. And this person over here hasn't come to the maturity to learn how to tap into that quite yet. Or maybe they have some of it, but haven't come to the complete collective revelation yet. And so what I'm talking about is not the two people. I'm talking about the frequency that these two or these millions or these groups are traveling in, because you can make the choice of frequencies. You can choose. You can step into a different frequency which will draw in a different vibration. The crystals are laying right inside you. You're in the holistic age. You got all 12 fruits. You got all 12 things coming off the tree of life. The crystals are all in you. This is the age for it. Some had certain crystals. Lucifer had justification. And Luther and Wesley had sanctification. Pentecost had speaking in tongues. And William Branham, the Word. And on and on and on. And there were certain crystals that were showing up. But this is the holistic age. You were born here with all 12 crystals. All 12 fruits of the tree of life laying in you. And where do you want to reside? You have all of the chakra lighting up in you. Do you want all the colors of the rainbow? It's up to you where you step into now. You have a choice now. You didn't. You tasted them both. You brought them both up. You had them both together. Now you're in a holistic age. Use them and make your choices on the vibration that you want to be. Frequencies have people in highs and people in lows. I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about frequencies. Vibrations have people in strength and people in weakness. You take a rock, you throw it into a pond, and that rock is as big as this cup I got sitting here. It's going to have a strong vibration that goes out. If I take that set of glasses and I throw it into the same pond, the vibration's weak. It doesn't go near as far. Vibration and frequency is where you are living. Do you want to make a big splash, or do you want to make a small one? It's up to you. Do you want to bring forth WHIO frequency that reaches at nighttime from 12 midnight till 5 a.m.? You can listen to it all over the world. All over the United States. Truck drivers, everybody's listening to it. It brings forth a huge frequency. It brings forth a high level that can be reached in New York to California, from Canada all the way down into South America. And then what do they do during the day? You know, there are rules and regulations, so they got to turn the frequency down, and then it reaches maybe to Cincinnati and Columbus and Indianapolis, and makes its frequency much smaller. What do you want to be? You got a choice. You want to turn your frequency up? It's your choice. You want to turn it down? It's your choice. You want to make a big splash? You want to... I used to tell the guys, guys I would train in the corporation, and many of them are running that corporation today. But I would tell them, I'd say, it's up to you what you want to be. You want to be a big fish in a little pond? Stay right there in that local area that you're at and run those 2 or 3 little plants. And be happy and be a big fish that everybody looks at. Or I said, you want to be a little fish in a big pond? I can send you on up to corporation, but you're never going to be as big as you are here. So, what do you want to be? You want to be a little fish in a big pond, or a big fish in a little pond? Make your choice, and then move to what you want to be. It's all about frequency and vibration. Attraction of your spirit being. What do you want to attract in? Who do you want to hear you? Who do you want to hear? All of these things are your choice now. This Brother Daniel wrote, the spirit doesn't look at your flesh. It only sees your nature. With all the chaos in the world today, especially in the United States, it's challenging to see what the Spirit is actually focusing on, and it is. But you know what I've come to find out? It's focusing on all of it. Everything is complementary. Some things are bigger than others. Some things are more personal than others. But the Spirit is focusing on it all. And we need to look at it as spirit and nature and leave the flesh alone. I like this. It's challenging to see what the Spirit is actually focusing on. This is compounded by the changes from the Piscean age, which recently ended, and the Aquarian age that we've entered into. Redefining terms void of bias is especially difficult, yet it has to be done, and it will be done. This is so true. As I said, I point at systems, and I say that system, don't get involved with it. I'm not pointing at you as a person, but immediately when I say the name of a system, it brings up bias in everybody. If I say KKK, White supremacists say, yeah, glory, that's right. Blacks and Hispanics say, no good. Terrible thing. Murderers, liars. If I say Black Lives Matter organization, all the whites say, I wish they go out there, they riot, they kill, they do this and that. I wish somebody'd do something about it. And many of the blacks, the bias rises up and they say, yeah, it's about time. We've been done so wrong. We've been done so ugly. We've been done. Biases, racism, on both sides, on every side, raising up. You know why? Because we got our eyes set on that right there. We got our eyes set on flesh. We got our eyes set on this right here. And we're not looking past the flesh and looking at what is coming forth, whether it is tare or wheat, and how to bring it to a collective revelation in your life and make it a complementary thing for you to grow in your nature. We're too busy pointing at ancestral things, pointing at past things, talking about where our race is going to be at in the future, instead of coming right here and being the Great Spirit in the here and now and looking at all things and knowing that your vibration of maturity and strength and love and your frequency, that high frequency that takes you to a higher consciousness, using all those things to just calmly put out, just put out your understanding, your revelation, your collective being, and just let it keep going, because it is a great big rock in a pond, and it's going to send waves that are going to cover up the little bitty things, the little fires that are happening all over the place. Those waves are just going to cover it all up, and it's going to move it all into one frequency. It's going to move it all into one new man. We need to get our eyes off the flesh and get them on what we are. We created this to bring out our living soul, to bring out the things in us. Now, all these things are not us. It is the living soul and spirit being in us that is us. And we attract these things according to the house that we live in. Redefining terms of bias is especially difficult. And when we're done today, you know what? It's going to be just the same. The first time that I put something out about an organization, which I will continue to do, no matter if it's an organization of politics, Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Black Lives Matter, KKK, Fox News, CNN News, all these organizations, when I put something out that they said, so many are going to get mad at me because I'm racist. So many are going to get mad at me because I'm biased. So many are going to... When I'm telling you I'm not. I'm putting out something that I hope you can use your collective revelation, take a good look at it and say, that's a place I don't want to go to, but I will use it as a tool in my life. It's kind of my contrast. It's in me. But I have settled the enmity in here. And what he's saying about that organization is true. It's causing separation. It's causing enmity. It's causing hurt. It's causing this and that. Not people. The contrast, the organization, the beast, the image of the beast. You're the beast. And you put out an image. And some of those images, I try my best to reveal what they are and stay away from them. But I love the beast. I love you. I love people. Anytime we focus our attention on the actions of the human flesh, then we naturally view things from a biased, oftentimes prejudiced perspective. Absolutely the truth. Presently, a lot of humanity is looking at skin color as a problem instead of the nature of people, regardless of color. The spirit is not, and that's correct. You know what? The spirit don't care.
It's not a color.
It's not a color. It absolutely doesn't care. If you're red, yellow, black, white, brown, it doesn't care. Presently, a lot of humanity is looking at skin color as a problem instead of the nature of people, regardless of color. The spirit is not. The attentions of the spirit is fixed on the nature of a person. The nature of the current times and the nature that a country displays. The flesh is as grass, here today, gone tomorrow. And only the nature continues on. Everything people do is defined by their nature, not their skin color. Not their education, not their geographical area, not their career, not who they work with, who they work for, not their business. Everything people do is defined by their nature, not their skin color. If you're looking at skin color, then you're not seeing what the Spirit is looking at. You're not seeing what the Spirit is doing. Let us refocus our attentions on what will actually help us to understand humanity better. Let us clearly see the natures that affect us all daily. Let us direct our energies into changing old natures into new ones, natures that will benefit humanity's progression. Do you understand what you just read? Go back to Matthew 13 and look at everything as tares and wheat, and know that you should not rip them apart, but let them grow together, strengthen one another, and come into your holistic understanding that all of this is to make you come out pure as gold, and you're not throwing anything away as far as burning it in a way of eliminating it and annihilating it, but you are just bringing things into the tools that you need to work with in your life, and all of them still lay there. They've just been through the fire of purging and cleansing. Everything. Let us direct our energies into changing our natures. Personally, I'm not concerned about what color you are. It's your nature that will either gravitate me towards you or repel me away from you. And by our natures, I will define our relationship. That's very true. Sometimes I find that I can't say very much to somebody, because I know that the moment that I say it, it's immediately going into a biased situation, and they are going to look at what politics is doing, religion's doing. They're going to say, oh, based on what he said, he agrees with the Democrats. No, I'm not a Democrat. Oh, based on what he said, he agrees with the Republicans. I'm not a Republican. I'm saying something from my collective revelation. Based on what he says, he's racist. He's against blacks. He's against Hispanics. I am not. But when I speak something, your filter of bias runs it through there and says, there's a racist, there's a Republican, there is a politician, there is a religious man. When I speak about religion, I'm not a religious man. I am a spiritual man. So stop running your things through your prejudice, through your bias, through your eyes of looking at the flesh, and think about the collective revelation of where we stand. That's what this is about. Brother Alan Stuckless made a comment on Daniel, and I liked it. He said, what I have found down through time and seasons, all natures are not the same, but the Spirit remains the same. It comes from the same person, the Spirit. Your nature will always show what you are. The Spirit can look at whatever he wants to, but will not judge the flesh, The truth lays in the spirit. Just a thought. Love bless. And that's true. What you are lays in the spirit. And when you put on human flesh and took on your elemental structure, just like Adam, you became a living soul. And then you attract inside you the attributes of that spirit being, uses the living soul to attract natures and bring it in and manifest what's in you. So look to the inside and listen from the ear, and don't put on the biased political, religious things of the flesh that you form through your geography, that you form through your family, through your schooling, because of your color, or whatever it might be. It's time to take all of that off and come to a holistic understanding of what's going on. I wrote in, this thought needs the attention of us all. Our soul is our nature. And when we entered here, we became a living soul. We have always been a quickening spirit. What we quicken here is our living soul. This is a good thought. What we quicken here is our living soul. We have always been a spirit. How many understands what I'm saying?
Very clearly.
The next time that I put something out on Facebook and it crosses your racial jurisdictions and it crosses your political agenda and it crosses your scientific thing, chloroquine. I'm telling you, why in the world would you want to keep a good thing away from people? It may not help 30% of the people, but my God, don't take it away from the 70% of the people that it did help and would help. These are the kind of things. I'm not a promoter of hydrochloroquine. I am a promoter of health. And if it helps you, take it. That should be between your doctor and your patient. And some of you are saying right now, but the WHO says don't take it. States have banned it. Our governor says no good. Our doctors say don't. It's between you and your doctor. And nobody should ban anything as far as what you need to stay healthy.
That's true.
That's the kind of person I am. If the Republicans are right, I'm going to say what's right. And you're going to say he's a Republican. If the Democrats are right, I'm going to say what's right, and you're going to say he's a Democrat. If politics is corrupt and they're all wrong, so to speak, in what they're doing, I'm going to speak up about it, and you're going to say he's against everything. He's a rebel. I'm speaking from my collective revelation. Someone said, I don't agree with your political views. Honestly, I don't have any political views. I'm not in love with any political party. I'm not in love with any man or woman that's running those political parties. I am in love with honesty, respect, and the truth, and treating one another with love and compassion and care. And when somebody crosses that line, I can love the person, but I don't have to agree with what they did, with the organization that they built, with the action that they took. And when I speak about it, use your collective revelation. Bring it to one new man. Jesus' day was the age of Aries and was going to Pisces, which was the day of Pentecost. It came about in Gemini, but the sun entered in Pisces, and Gemini was the month. Jesus, through all of the ages, was a Messiah to set up the throne of David over Israel, prophesied 1070 BC, 2 Samuel 3 and 10. He came through Aries, Matthew 1:23, Isaiah 7 and 14. Emmanuel, meaning God with us, was the title applied to the Messiah, born of a virgin. He came through Virgo. Then Jesus was getting ready to leave that old age of the sacrificial law and bring sacrifice himself to the reality. And as he come to that point, Jesus was showing a sign of where he was going. How did he do that? He went to Calvary. In Mount Golgotha, hanging there between two thieves. One railed him. One said, "Why are you railing him?" He took one to paradise with him. And the other thief, he didn't. The thief said to Jesus, "Remember me in your kingdom." Jesus looked at him and said, "This day thou shalt be with me in paradise." Jesus was staging the next move down through the Piscean age of coming in as a thief in the night and doing what he was doing. And he took the nature with him, the nature of a thief. Yeah, Jesus became a thief. Isn't that a horrible thing? Because it was complementary to the age coming. Very clear statement. Jesus said unto them, "Verily I say unto you, today thou shalt be with me in paradise." Very clear statement. Today thou shalt be with me in paradise. Where is the geographical place called paradise? There's no such a thing as geographical place of paradise. Somewhere to live eternally. It is now. And so he said, today, present moment, you're going to live with me. Eternal life means heaven. Listen, this is William Branham speaking. Eternal life means heaven. Eternal punishment means hell. Yes, eternal life. We're going to go live in heaven. Yeah, and those are bad punishment. They're going to go live in hell. Brother Branham says, you would be surprised at the men who have been exalted as theologians that believe that. Brother Branham's saying, I don't believe that. You'd be surprised at the men that do believe that. Did you know that makes eternal life a matter of geography instead of a person? Did you know the Third Testament message, religion, they are all teaching geography, a falsehood of geography? Now listen, I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about organizations. Get your bias out of you right now. And get your geography out of you right now and realize that there's no eternal heaven and there's no eternal hell, but there's no geographical place that you're going to. It is a person that you enter into, and that is a Christ atmospheric spirit of love, compassion, and everything else. What Jesus did as Messiah was to bring all humanity in recognition, and he symbolized it through the signs of the zodiac. His literal transition. He literally transitions us from Aries to Pisces, and then from Pisces into the Aquarian age. The Aquarian age is the highest understanding in all the zodiac. That's true. Aquarian is the highest intellect in all of the zodiac. We moved into the highest intellect, into the mind of Christ. Leveling up the understanding are promises we received from the Messiah, and not some geographical place that we're going to. Not some flesh that we're entering into. It's not about flesh. It's not about geography. It's not about any of those things. Geographical eternity is not a promise. For we was already in there. We was all there to where there is no entrance or exit. You can't enter eternity. You can't exit eternity.
That's right.
I like that. You can't enter or exit eternity. We are all in this together. It's not a geographical eternity. It is an atmospheric thing. atmospheres of heaven, hell, racism, beast, images of the beast, organizations, Islam, religion, whatever it might be. We move into atmospheric places that produce the fruits of tares or wheat. And we are all in it together, and it is all complementary. Although much of it is contrast, it's all complementary to where we are going. He goes on to say, we was all there to where there is no entrance and there's no exit. We are all in this together. All we have to do is to recognize that we're here. And we're there. And we are everywhere. That is and was he that took a nature of a thief. And now he's taken the nature. What nature is he taken now? Angels. Matthew 22. He's taken the nature of angels. He's taken the nature of now actually moving beyond the angelic reapers, and we're moving into a holistic understanding of taking the servant who's talking, taking the sower of wheat and the sower of tares, and taking the wheat and the tares, and taking the angels and the reapers. We're taking it all and we're bringing it into one new man. It's you and me. With all of the middle walls of partitions being torn down, it's brand new. It's us. We are walking in it, understanding it, and we are living in a time of unification, holistic. Don't let anything whatsoever separate you from a person. And when you do, some kind of bias in that enmity that you had in you is coming out. There's some people that I don't want to be around. They talk too much. They rattle off too much. And there's other people that I don't want to be around because I feel like I'm by myself when I'm with them. You know, if any conversation comes up, you got to do it yourself. And then you find you're talking to yourself while they sit there and stare at you. So I kind of, I look for people that's maybe in between. That doesn't make me biased. I still love that guy. I still love that woman. I still love people. I bring up all of these organizations, news organizations, religious organizations, political organizations, racial organizations. I bring up all of these things, and people immediately jump into the opposite side because of their bias and say, that's what's needed in the world today. And other people jump in and say, that's right, they ought to shut that thing down. They ought to do this, they ought to do that. They ought to pass laws against that. Bias on both sides just coming out. Get past your flesh. Get past Alan's flesh. Get past Connie's flesh, a Hispanic. Get past the black flesh and get past the white flesh. Get past all of these things. The brown. Get past all that and look at one another as people. Love one another. Throw out all your geographical differences. Throw out all your biases. Look through the Spirit and bring yourself to understanding your holistic age. So when you read me talking about MLB, Major League Baseball, or NFL, I've seen where a couple of the teams in the MLB, they actually stood during the national anthem. And I loved it because all the hockey players, they all said, we're not going to disrespect the flag. I'm not going to disrespect the Philippine flag, the American flag, the Canadian flag, the Bolivian flag, the Russian flag, the Vietnamese flag, I'm not going to disrespect any of them because the flag represents a nature of people who have grown up in that area, and I'm not going to let bias make me dislike that nature of people. I'm not going to let culture make me think that I am different or better than those people. So when I bring things up about organization, about flags, I'm talking about a world inside you, like Brother Jamie Wesley said last weekend on the broadcast. He said everybody has a right to create their own world. Absolutely the truth. You come with no choice of tasting the two. And then when you come to your maturity, you have a right to create your own world. And if you hear me on here and I'm discussing this geographical thing or this religious thing or this political thing, what I'm trying to tell you in my love for you as a person, that organization might not be the best thing. That thing over here might not be the best thing to get into. It'll bring out in you discontent, anger, hurt, jealousy, bias, racism, whatever it might be. It'll bring it out in you if you get yourself involved in that. That's all I'm doing. If there's some way that I can open a door and show you a path for you to walk on, not for me to walk you through it, but for you to walk on. A path of love, compassion, a path that has every right to disagree, has every right to be different, but you're doing it from collective revelation. You're doing it not from the biases and the anger and the hurt and the abuse and all those things that you and your ancestors grew up with. It's time to move beyond that. It's time to stop looking at people. Turn inward. Take your enmity and make yourself one new man, a holistic revelation, and use all of these things as tools for one another. That's what I'm talking about. And when you see somebody who gets that upset with me, that it begins to flow, that bias, that whatever it might be, and sometimes I may find out that I had a little bias in what I wrote. And I may write something and say, hey brother, I done it with a brother in Africa just here not long ago. I'm really sorry for what I wrote. I see I hurt you and I really wasn't paying attention to what I should have been saying, and love you and please forgive me. I'm not past doing that. But I am going to write what I see, what I love, through collective revelation, and I hope that it helps you. And the moment you feel it digging in on you, rather than making you feel good, ask yourself certain questions about yourself. What am I feeling? Why am I thinking this way? What's going on in my life that's getting me upset? And 9 times out of 10, just like me, you will find out it's not something in the other person. It's something in you that's going on. Get past the flesh. All flesh is as grass. And it will wither. It will become old. It will fade away. All organizations that were made by the flesh are just grass. It will wither, it will get old, and it will fade away. All the images of the beast are just grass. If you think not, go to Rome right now and take a look at the Colosseum. I've been there. Go to Israel and look at where they're doing digs, and they're digging down 30 and 40 feet under to find places like Capernaum that used to have great rulers, great cities, and people walking through the streets. All organization is as grass. It will fade away. Napoleon, Alexander the Great, the Greeks, On and on and on. Just keep naming it. Look at the mighty things that came on the earth and where it's at today. It all fades away, but there's one thing that will remain. Collective revelation, eternity, a person understanding these great things. Is there anything?
Keep in mind that one of the greatest aspects of the Aquarian age is to recast. If you look at the natures of different ages, the Aquarian age, one of the biggest dominating aspects of this age is recasting. And it takes all four of those angelic presences with purposes to do that. It takes it takes being aware, being awake to all of that within you to be able to recast yourself, because without all that, you can't do it. You'll wind up way off on one side or the other, totally biased. It takes being able to see all that to be able to recast yourself.
That's right. And that is a very dominant part of this age, is the total recasting of atmospheres, total recasting of you, your tools, your thoughts, your ideas, the total recasting of the systems is happening all around us. And it'll continue to happen.
Yep. Systems, environments, atmospheres, frequencies, vibes, all of it falls under recasting in
Yes.
this age.
You have something?
I look at it all as a everlasting expression of love. From one everlasting expression to another everlasting expression. And in that everlasting expression is a balance of enmity. So you can't have love without enmity. What makes love? Enmity. What makes enmity? Love.
That's
So it's all a balance of both. And we're living out an everlasting expression from one moment to the next moment to the next moment. And you are everlasting, or you will always express that attribute.
Yes.
That nature of the soul, or nature of the spirit. Your living soul, the nature of your spirit. Your everlasting attribute for that moment will be expressed no matter what you try to do or not to do, what choices you make or choices you don't make. You will express
Yes.
that everlasting expression for that moment.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the next moment, to the next moment.
It is the Aquarian portal.
It is.
It used to be the Piscean portal.
Right.
That was an everlasting moment
Right.
of love under the Piscean nature. We entered Aquarius, we're entering another everlasting love, and we're watching the enmities and everything about us change in the age.
And when you come to the harvest, or your awareness of who you are and what you're doing, you make choices so that your enmity or the tares do not overshadow the wheat anymore.
That's right.
You make that choice based on your harvest, based on your awareness.
Yeah.
You make the tears the background colors.
Yeah.
It's still great. It makes a beautiful picture. But you make them the background colors, and you bring out the wheat in those three-dimensional objects. The wheat comes out in the forefront.
Right. And the tares never go away. No matter how many times you pluck that plant out of that ground, it's
It
going to
comes
grow back.
Believe me,
There.
it comes. I can pull the root and all of it.
Yeah, it'll still come back.
Yeah.
Yes. Amen. We have this love in us. Right now, reach out. Say to yourself, I want to be a part. I want to recast. I want to remove a lot of these biases, a lot of these feelings, a lot of these things. I want to be a part of the changing. We have the strength, the authority in Christ within us. We have it for healing, mentally, spiritually. We have it for our finances as the birds of the air. We have it for everything. Reach out inside you right now. Reach out and pull it out of you, and let other people taste it, feel it, and know it. Let them taste of your energies. Let them be healed. Let them receive the things they need. In the name of Christ. Amen.